Can't get out of bed, don't want to go to the gym, don't want to do homework, you're feeling unmotivated, right? It's actually more common than you think. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the tips that I used to boost my motivation when I was suffering with mental health issues. Today, we're going to be talking about motivation, and this video was meant to be recorded outdoors, but unfortunately Storm Eunice has hit the UK and it's blowing hooly outside. So you've got my intro outside and now the rest of it has to be filmed inside. I do apologise for that. About 5 or I'd say 6 years ago now, I went through a really tough time with my bipolar disorder, and I was suffering with manic episodes, and I was also suffering with depression episodes, and occasionally I had psychotic episodes as well, which is where you hear voices and you hallucinate and stuff like that. And I found it a real struggle to be able to do just the basic of tasks throughout the day. So I would struggle definitely getting out of bed. And once out of bed, it was very difficult to get motivated to do anything other than perhaps sit down and stick a box set on the television and just binge watch. And it wasn't necessarily because I was lazy, it was because I just did not have any motivation whatsoever. It just all seemed to be such an immense task. When my wife would ask me, do you fancy going shopping? I would be thinking, oh my God, that's a trip out in the car. Then there's a walk around the shops, and then we'd have to pack it all away. And to people that don't suffer with mental health issues, and to people that don't suffer with motivation, you probably wouldn't even be watching this video anyway, but it didn't seem like a big deal. It's like, just get in the car, drive down the road, walk around the shops. What's the problem? Well, the problem is when you have mental health problems, everything just seems like it's a huge weight. And what you want to do is you just want to go, stop the earth. I want to get off this ride. You don't want to be on it. You don't want to be waking up. You don't want to be getting dressed. You don't want to be showering. You don't want to be shaving your face. You don't want to be doing anything. You just literally think to yourself, oh my God, I've got to get through this day and I've got to get to sleep. And even then, sleep's a struggle. Anyway, that's another subject. We're talking about motivation. Fast forward to 3 years ago, and this was the start of when things changed in my mind. This was when I said to myself, enough's enough, Lee. You've got to do something about it. And I thought, how on earth am I going to do anything about it? How am I going to get the motivation to get up out of bed? How am I going to get the motivation to put my shoes on, to put my coat on, to leave the house, to go outdoors, to wash my face, to shower, to engage in the hobbies that I used to enjoy, which is photography. I absolutely love photography. Hopefully in the future I'll be making some videos about my photography. I'm an amateur photographer. Well, say I'm a semi-professional photographer really. I don't sell any photographs per se, but I am qualified in photography. And so I'm quite passionate, as you can tell, about that subject, and that's one of my hobbies. But I had no motivation to do it, and I had to change that thought pattern. I had to change that mindset. But I had to make a plan. I had to decide what to do, and I did a ton of extensive research on how to get motivated. And I guess what I've done basically is I've taken that research and I've taken my experience, and I can't stop looking at my dog, and I've compilated this video into some tips on what I actually did. Now, fast forward again to the present day, and it's taken a while. I'm not saying this is going to be easy, and I'm not saying that this is going to be an overnight solution. But hopefully, if you follow the tips that I'm going to give you, then you will be able to start implementing those, and you will be able to get your life back on track and start doing the things that you enjoy, as well as the basic skills and tasks you need to do as a human. I would always think to myself, I can't do it, or I didn't want to do it, or there was always something else, and my classic go-to was binge watching Netflix. I know exactly what you're all going through. It feels like you're wading through mud. You're stuck in a rut, and you just don't have a way or means to get out of it. And this applies to no matter what the task is. You could be an avid drawer, or you may love going out walking the dog. You might have other hobbies that you like doing. Going to the gym, for example, is a good one, or even just like getting out of the house and going for a walk. Personal care, showering, shaving, doing your hair, doing your makeup. Whatever the task is, it's going to be a struggle, and it's going to seem like a struggle. What I want you to all know, and I mean this in all sincerity, is you're not alone. There is absolutely millions of people that suffer with mental health issues, whether that's depression and anxiety, depression on its own, personality disorders, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, whatever the mental health issue is, one of the common themes is motivation. And people, when they're not motivated, they come to YouTube and they look for inspiration. So hopefully this video will be giving you some inspiration, and it will be giving you the answers that you need coming up. Now, if you like this video so far, I'd like you to smash that follow button for me. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. So I decided that I was going to do a little video on motivation, because it's nice to be able to hear from somebody who's actually got experience. A lot of the YouTube videos on here, on this platform, they are from doctors, psychiatrists, they're from occupational therapists or other kind of counsellors. And whilst they are experienced in dealing with people with those kind of conditions, they're not experienced necessarily in the actual problem itself. So I hope you can take away something from this video based on the fact that I've actually gone through this. Another one of my passions is getting out walking on the hills. I've done a video about, does walking help with depression? And you can see that on the end card. I'll post it on the end card for you so you can watch that video if you like. But I'd always find myself making excuses like, oh, it's too dark outside, or oh, it's too cold, I don't really want to go out, and especially with my camera to take pictures, there was always some excuse. But the thing is, when you do get out and about, when you do go for that walk, you meet people and you experience life. And by meeting people, talking to people, even if it's just saying hello, getting that little bit of sunshine on your skin, it's very, very good for improving your mental health. And when you improve your mental health, you also improve your motivation. So the two sometimes can I'll get there in a minute. They can coexist. So, you know, if you've got mental health problems, then you're likely to have motivational problems. And if you get better mental health, you're likely to be more motivated. And also, therefore, poor motivation decreases mental health, and more motivation increases mental health. So they work side by side, simultaneously. So I do hope that you take a look through my channel and have a look at some of the other videos that I've done, which are engaging in helping you and supporting you to get better mental health. And I will also be letting you know that I'm uploading every week. I will be increasing my uploads. Currently they're once a week. Hopefully they'll be more than once a week very shortly as I get more into the swing of getting back on YouTube. Of course, when you make excuses, you end up missing out and you don't even realise you're missing out. So let's take, for example, you've been invited to a party and you're all excited and you think, yeah, I can't wait to go to this party, I'm buzzing. And then it gets closer and closer and you make excuses and you just don't go. And that could be to do in part with anxiety, but it could also be to do with part of motivation. And then you miss out and you don't even realise that the chance to socialise would mean that you would gain some experience with getting back out in the world, with doing some new and exciting things. And you just got to take charge. And for me, in my journey, it was very difficult to do this. It was time consuming. It took a while. It took willpower. And I want you to know that you are going to stumble. You are going to have hard days. You're going to have hard times where you think to yourself, do you know what? I had the motivation yesterday. I had the motivation for the last few days and now it's gone again. But what I want you to do is realise that this is just a blip. Pick yourself back up. Go over and reevaluate what you've learned and re-implement them, because it is simply just a blip and you can do this. Now, enough of me waffling on about my life. Let's get down to the tips to improve your motivation. Thank you so much if you're still here listening. Tip number 1 is breaking things down into small chunks. So, for example, if we look at the housework, we would think to ourselves, oh my God, I've got to do the dishes, I've got to do the hoovering, I've got to do the dusting, I've got to do the gardening. So many things that we need to do. Break them down into smaller chunks and just maybe do the hoovering or do the dishes or do something in the garden. But don't necessarily do everything all at once. And this is where a schedule comes in really well. Having a schedule, breaking your day down into small chunks, morning, afternoon, evening, because sometimes we've got quite a few tasks to get through in the day and we can't just do one task. We can't just hoover and leave the dishes till tomorrow, because then we got more dishes for tomorrow. But we could leave the hoovering. So what I would do is I would pick the time of the day where I had the most energy, whether that's when I first got up or whether that's after lunch. Whatever it is for you, that is your best time. So you would pick, say for example, clean the dishes in the morning. Then one other task in the afternoon would be hoover. And then the next day, maybe dust. And then the next day, maybe gardening. And if gardening is a passion of yours, you could say to yourself, right, okay, I've got to mow the lawn. I've got to weed the flower beds. So break those down into smaller chunks and do a bit of weeding on one day and a bit of mowing the lawn on another. So we can always take larger things and we can make them a lot smaller. And that really did help with my motivation. It helped me get a schedule, and then it helped me over time increase that schedule so that I could do more and more things. Tip number 2 is about being present. Now, what do we mean by being present? Now is being present. Today is being present. We don't want to look at the past. That has gone. And we don't want to consider too much into the future, because worrying about what happens in the future will just increase our anxiety and decrease our motivation. So we need to ground ourselves and think about today. What do I need to do today? And then what do I want to do today? So what I did was I broke it down into small chunks, and I picked one thing I needed to do, one thing I wanted to do, and then one reward. So for example, what I needed to do was take a shower. So in the morning, I took a shower. In the afternoon, what I wanted to do was go for a walk. So I took the dog for a walk. And then a reward system is what would I like to do for pleasure, and that could be an hour's gaming, for example. So see how those 2 tips work together. And also on the subject of rewards is make sure you guys, when you do things that you feel proud of, you need to reward yourself. When you've completed a task that you were previously unmotivated for, you need to reward yourself. Even if it's just simple, look in the mirror and go, well done. I'm so glad I did that. That's a reward, all right? It's very, very important that we acknowledge our successes when we struggle with mental health. Tip number 3 is all about journaling. Now, we talked about having a schedule in tips 1 and 2. In this tip, journaling is a key to help you understand your motivation. Now, journaling basically is like a diary. You sit down at the end of the day, or during the day even, and you write down your thoughts, your feelings, what made you motivated, what caused you to be unmotivated. And over time, when we write these things down, we can look back at them and we can figure out our triggers, and we can understand better what causes us to not want to do things, but also what helps us to do things. So I identified one of my biggest triggers, and that was anxiety. Anxiety stopped me from being motivated. But over that time, using my journal, I was able to understand what was causing my anxiety, and then I understood how to get more motivation. And I did that all through journaling. It's a really, really good way of doing it. You don't necessarily have to do a written journal. You can do it video. You can write a blog. Keep the blog private if you don't want it kind of being seen by everybody. But yeah, you can record yourself on your phone, record your thoughts and feelings. However you want to do it, keeping a journal is a massive tip. Get one. Do it now. Tip number 4. This is a little bit controversial, so please, you take this however you will. It is meant from the heart, but it's something that I had to do. And this tip is for people who are extremely unwell and may have comorbidity issues. For example, they may suffer with psychosis, schizophrenia, a severe bipolar depression. I, myself, was severely depressed. I wouldn't get out of bed. I wouldn't do anything. And I was sleeping for hours and hours and hours every day and night. And my wife, bless her, she begged me, Lee, please, just do one thing. And this is the tip, really. Whatever happens, pick one task to do every day and force yourself to do it. That's why I say it's controversial. I know there's going to be people out there that are like, oh my God, I can't force myself to do something. I had no choice. I had to force myself to get out of bed and do one thing. If I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have been able to progress, and I would have continued to be severely unwell. So please, honestly, this tip is from my heart. I don't mean any offense by it. It does work. Trust me, I've been there. Tip number 5 is what I call the 2-minute rule. Now, I didn't create this. I found it. It was from the days when I used to do drawing, and I bought this book. And this book was called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And it's a bit of like a psychology mumbo jumbo, but it made a lot of sense. Now, you've got a right hand hemisphere and you've got a left hand hemisphere of the brain. Now, the left hand hemisphere is the one that is in charge most of the time. And it's the one that says to you, oh, you've got to do logical things. You can't draw, you've got some banking to do. Or you can't have anything fun in your life because you've got to pay the bills. It's the logical side, and it's the side that makes you procrastinate. And it's the side that controls your motivation as well. Now, the 2-minute rule is basically how you kick in the right-hand side, the creative side of your brain. And what the book suggested was you sit there with a pencil or a pen and you scribble for 2 minutes. And then that 2 minutes turns into 10, turns into 30, turns into 2 hours. Before you know it, you've done so much. So how do we apply this? Well, basically, if you do something for 2 minutes, the left-hand side of the brain that's telling you to stop doing it shuts off. The right-hand side of the brain that helps you to do things, the creative side of you, will kick in, and all of a sudden you're finding yourself hoovering. You've done the hoovering for 2 minutes, and then you're moving on and you're doing something else. You're starting to dust. You're starting to think about food, and you're starting to cook. And that's how it works. So it's the 2-minute rule tip. Do something for 2 minutes, no matter how you feel about it, no matter how unmotivated you are about it. Just start it, 2 minutes, and I guarantee you'll be just flying along with that task. Now, this is the last tip, and this is a bonus tip because it's only something that we've been decided to do recently, and it comes from my wife. Bless her heart, she thought of this and she said to me, Lee, just change one thing. Now, why did she say this to me? Well, she said it to me because I have sometimes an overactive imagination, and I have all these like ideas which I write down, and I want to do this and I want to do that, and there's so much that I want to do and I can't do them all. So pick one thing, she said, change one thing. That's all you got to do. Make one change. And this can be applied to anything you do in life. Write a list of all the things you need to do to change your life for the better. Pick one and do it. And I guarantee you that once you do that one thing and you complete that task, you can move on and pick another. And that helps towards your motivation and making you have better mental health. Because in life, people will say to you, it's not about the journey, it's about the destination. But in our situation, it's all about the journey. We can't think too far into the future. We have to think some into the future because we need to take one day at a time. But it's about the journey. It's about getting involved to making your life better so that when you do arrive at the destination you want to arrive at, you had fun along the way. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you've got any comments or suggestions, drop them in the comments below, especially video suggestions. Any questions you would like me to answer, I will do that. Drop them in those comment box. Here's some more videos. Go take a watch. I've got an itch I can't scratch. I'm missing a piece that completes a whole part of me. An open wound scar to see. Everybody come here, gather round. Welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What the hell's wrong with me? I don't get along with anybody, honestly. I've been living in my own head constantly. Thoughts jumbled round, think I need a new lobotomy. Wait, all these thoughts are too negative. I don't wanna get lost.